Well, it's Halloween again. You know what that means. Spirits are among us. Darkness comes for us. The dead are rising from their tombs. And I gotta go pass out candy later. But for all those who had to stay inside tonight, don't be afraid. So I got a special treat for you right here. Tonight, we're gonna play some Castlevania. Well, it is Halloween, so Castlevania seems like an appropriate choice. The Castlevania games got their start on the NES back in the late 80s. The NES games are most often remembered for their creepy graphics, awesome music, and for having an insane amount of difficulty. But the one Castlevania game that most people have played is Symphony of the Night, which combined Castlevania's haunting atmosphere with Super Metroid's open-ended exploration, and it worked out quite well. And since then, almost every game in the series has followed the template sent by Symphony of the Night. But one thing for certain is that Castlevania has come a long way from the original NES classics. Nowadays, there's plenty of great Castlevania games to go around, but the big question is, just how well does the first one hold up? Let's find out. Well, for one, the graphics are pretty good for an early NES game, but the music is just awesome. It seems like all Castlevania games have an impressive soundtrack, but in my opinion, Simon's Quest easily kills the other NES games with the song Bloody Tears. But I'm not going to be talking about that game. Anyway, this is a really remarkable game for its time. It has plenty of classic horror set pieces, and all the classic monsters are here. You got mummies, Frankenstein and Igor, and Dracula. But they saved Dracula for last, so you'll be lucky if you can get that far. The game itself is a pretty good side-scroller. You walk through a giant castle, whipping anything that gets in your way, and you get some pretty cool sub-weapons to help you through your journey. Now, as cool as this game is, there are a few things about it that just drive me to the brink of insanity. First off, this game is insanely hard. The first few levels are pretty easy, but by the time you make it halfway through the game, every muscle in your body is tensing up. And here's why. For starters, you have to learn how to control your jumps, or you're going down. That's because there's no mid-air jump control like in Super Mario Bros. If you hold down the A button, you get vertically locked in place. The only way to jump is to move the D-pad and then hit jump. Another difficulty curve is that if you get hit by anything, you'll fly back. There's no post-hit damage invincibility like in other games. If anything touches you, you fly backwards. And if there's a pit right next to you, just expect to die. But the one enemy that I truly hate in this game is not the Medusa heads. It's these skull pillars that spit fire at you. You can't duck to avoid getting hit either. The only way to get past them is to get close enough to attack and whip them at the exact same time they're spitting fire at you. It's not that easy to do anyway. It may look simple enough, but unless you've played it before, you have no idea. Now let me talk about the bosses. For the most part, they're pretty easy. When I got to the giant bat, all I did was throw axes at him until he died. As for the flying Medusa head, I just used a stopwatch to freeze her. Look at how easy this is. The two mummies are pretty hard, seeing how it's easy to take a lot of damage before getting to them. But my strategy for these guys is just find a spot to duck and start attacking them and praying that they'll die before you do. And even though you have a huge life bar, you can only get hit 4 times. Then after that, it's back to the beginning of the stage. Probably the only boss that annoyed me more than anything in this game was Frankenstein and Igor. Frankenstein is pretty easy. All he does is move back and forth, but Igor makes his battle more of a pain than it has to be. He jumps all over the room and shoots fireballs that hit you no matter what. The only way to get past these two is to attack Igor and then deal with Frankenstein while Igor's temporarily immobilized. But that's much easier said than done. I played this stage for about a half hour before I finally got some holy water, and the only thing left to do was enact my revenge. See, I don't have to play fair either. The next area is a torture chamber. This part of the game is a nightmare. It's one of the hardest sections of the whole game, and there's no room for error. There's hunchbacks that fly all over the room, skeletons that throw bones at you, and axe knights that take 10 hits to kill. The boss for this stage of the game is the Grim Reaper, and I've never been able to beat him. It's all because the hall right before you can get to him is even more complicated than everything else I just mentioned. You have to kill the knights that take 10 hits to kill and dodge the Medusa heads. But if you know where to stand, the Medusa heads won't be an issue. I died over and over again several times, and after all this time, I have never had another chance at fighting death. Now, for as many problems as I have with this game, there are a lot of things about it that I really like. Once again, the music is really epic and fits the game perfectly, and the sub-weapons you can get along the way are awesome. The Holy Cross can fly across the screen and take out enemies from a distance, and the stopwatch can come in handy when flying the skull pillars and while fighting some bosses. But the holy water seems to be the most useful. It may have a short range, but it deals out a lot of damage. Another thing I like that I'm not sure many people know about is that if you hold down the A or B button after touching the orb the boss leaves behind, you'll trigger a glitch where, based on whatever button you're holding, Simon will start hopping in midair or start whipping faster than you can with the controller. It's a pretty weird glitch, but fun at the same time. To wrap things up, this is still a great game, and I think it has aged pretty well. It just has a certain appeal to it that just won't die out. It was the first of its kind, and without this very fun, but very hard game, Castlevania just wouldn't be what it is today. Well, this is where I'd end things. But I still have a little bit of time left before I have to go pass out candy. So, let's move on to the Super Nintendo. Just one more Castlevania game. Yeah, I know I might be skipping over 2 games, but this is one that I really want to talk about. I already mentioned this game in one of my earlier videos, but I feel I can do it better here. Moving from the NES to the SNES made me really appreciate this game more than ever. Super Castlevania is just that. Super. This game is actually a remake of the first game, but what's awesome about it is that it took everything that made the first game great and multiplied it 10 times over. And they took everything that made the first game annoying and fixed it. For one, the jump control is much better now. You can actually control where you land and you don't feel as limited. But the best improvement was being able to whip in any direction you want. This made it so much easier to move past enemies without the risk of getting killed. And the sub-weapons are back. The holy water, the holy cross, the knives, and the stopwatch all make a comeback. But not only that, the challenge is much better. You can duck to avoid projectiles, and the boss battles feel a little bit more fair compared to the first game. And just like the first game, the presentation is great. This is a very beautiful and well-crafted game to look at. There's a lot of detail everywhere, and you get to visit some pretty cool locations. The music, once again, is amazing for this game. I would even go as far to call it not only some of the best Castlevania music, but some of the best video game music of all time. Overall, Konami showed great care and attention to the Castlevania series by making a game with great set pieces, incredible music, fair challenge, and still being able to hold that chilling Castlevania atmosphere. Well, that's all for tonight, kids. Hope you have a safe Halloween, get plenty of candy, don't do anything stupid, and wait, is there something else I'm forgetting?
Trick or treat!
Oh yeah, I have to pass out candy. Good night.